Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev 2, the rematch conference call. Today we have Team Ward. To start the call, I would like to introduce Michael Yormark, President and Chief of Branding and Strategy for Rock Nation. Mr. Yormark, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to first do some thank yous and thank all the media for participating today. We appreciate all your support. I also want to thank HBO and Peter Nelson and Tony Walk for all of their support. Also would like to thank MGM and Mandalay Bay, the Las Vegas Boxing Commission, as well as our sponsors for this fight on June 17th. Our presenting sponsor, Corona, Monster Products will also be powering Fight Week, Jetlux, Life 10 Water, Zappos, Douce Cognac, Bodybuilder.com. I also want to thank Josh Dubin, Andre's attorney and co-manager, for joining this call today, and you'll hear from him in a few moments. We will not be taking any questions until all of our three speakers are finished. Those three speakers are Virgil Hunter, Josh Dubin, again Andre's attorney and co-manager, as well as the champ, Andre Ward. The championship event presented by Corona Extra will be produced and distributed live by HBO pay-per-view. That broadcast will begin at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Tickets for Ward-Kovalev 2, the rematch, are still available and can be found on Axis.com and at the Mandalay Bay Events Center box office in Las Vegas. Obviously, Ward-Kovalev 2, the rematch, has the potential to be the fight of the year. As you have heard and as you've written, these fighters don't like each other. These fighters don't have respect for one another. And this obviously creates a lot of buzz, a lot of curiosity, and a lot of anticipation for next week's fight. As you've heard Andre state time and time again after this fight, there will be no excuses. And without a doubt, the winner of this fight will absolutely be the pound-for-pound king in the sport of boxing. I would now like to introduce the best trainer in the sport, Virgil Hunter.
Hello, everybody. I concur with Michael on all the thanks to everyone who was involved in this promotion from A to Z. So just know that I thank each and every one of you. I am a little humbled to be called the best trainer in the sport. It's very humbling for me. I'm very uncomfortable with it because I don't like to think that way. In the coaches fraternity, I have respect for each and every one because we have a very difficult job. Pertaining to our camp, we've had a good camp. We've had a very smooth camp, the way you would like them to be. Sometimes they can't always turn out that way, but we are fortunate enough this time to have everything clicking. It's good to see Andre in the gym after 4 fights and see him getting back and closer to who he truly is, not just as a warrior and a battler and an individual who has a lot of dog in him, but also that very skilled pugilist. So I'm looking forward to the 17th to put the finale, so to speak, down on this situation and let Andre do the talking that night with his left and his right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil. Now we'd like to hear some remarks from Josh Dubin, Andre's attorney and co-manager.
Yeah, on behalf of James Prince and myself, I just want to thank everybody for participating in the call. And, second what Virgil said, we are extremely grateful for the support of HBO, all of our sponsors that have stepped up, of course, Rock Nation, and, at the risk of making Virgil a little bit more uncomfortable, I do feel like from top to bottom we just have the best team out there, certainly best trainer in the world, and I just think that I feel blessed to be part of such a historic event, and I know that on June 17th you're going to see magic in that ring, and one of the best, if not the best, to ever step into the ring, do his thing yet again, and not much else to say except let's just keep on counting down to the 17th, and feel real fortunate to be part of this event.
Thanks, Josh. And this next speaker really needs no introduction. The champ, Andre Ward.
Thank you, Michael. I'm happy to be on the call. I'm excited. We're about 10, 11 days away. And I want to thank all the sponsors that Michael mentioned, HBO, of course, for all the work that they do, and everybody who has their hand in this event to make this possible. So I'm thankful and appreciative and excited about next week.
Thanks, champ. So now that all of our speakers have been introduced and have spoken, we will now open the line for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, if you have any questions at this time, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. And I'm waiting for callers to join the queue at this present time. Our first question is going to come from Robert Ho from the FightNews.com. Please go ahead.
Mr. Ward, hello. How have you been?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, pretty well. I'm calling from Beirut, Lebanon. I'm missing the Warriors games, but in any case, there's been some uncertainty out there and differing views and differing statements about where things stand with you and VADA, the drug testing. Are you enrolled in VADA for this fight, and have you been tested if you are?
I don't know what you're talking about. I actually just saw VADA yesterday. I've been enrolled, and it was actually my idea to get enrolled and get both the fighters enrolled, so I really have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I had just seen some uncertainty online, but so you are I just wanted to make sure you are enrolled, and have you been tested since you've been enrolled?
Uncertainty from where?
I can't hear you.
Uncertainty from what? Where? Where'd you get any uncertainty from?
I was just looking around online. There didn't seem to be anything specifically and unequivocally stating that you were enrolled.
No disrespect, but you gotta kind of get the facts before you ask a question like that. I think I've been tested maybe 5 times this camp, and as far as I know, there's no issues with VADA at all. So sometimes the internet can lie.
Oh, which is exactly why I'm asking. All right, and a quick question for Mr. Hunter, if I may, and for Mr. Ward. Is there any concerns with the travel? I mean, I know you were in Montreal, then there was a trip to London. How does that affect training Ward for this fight?
Doesn't affect training at all. He's a professional. He's been through this for the 24 years of his life. So you have to understand, when he went to the Olympics, he wasn't with me at all for 3 months. So he's a professional. He knows what to do. He's my least worry of leaving town for a week. It's part of the sport. It's part of the game. And when you have a professional like Andre, you don't worry about those things.
Good. Thank you much. Best.
Our next question is going to come from Lance Pugmar from the Los Angeles Times. Please go ahead.
Hi, Andre. How you doing today?
Hey, Lance.
Hey, Andre, I just wanted to ask you this past week when you were able to talk to the Warriors and make that video presentation and see the fans' response, at the NBA championships. Are you able to like take a moment and just appreciate, how far you've come and where you are now? I know this is where you've always strived to be, but to have that moment where the entire arena is, clapping at your words and really hailing you, and you're this unbeaten 3-belt champion now. All this work that you've put in has come to fruition. Do you take time and really soak that in and appreciate it?
I mean, I'm definitely aware of it. You know, I'm thankful. That's probably the word I can use, is just thankful and appreciative, just to be around as long as I have. You know, I've seen fighters come and go. You know, some have long, illustrious careers. Many others don't. Sometimes guys are, you know, hot for a couple of years and then, you know, take a bad loss and you don't hear from them. So just to be able to compete through, you know, the ups and downs of this sport as long as I have is a blessing. And, you know, the things like with the Warriors or, you know, any kind of accolades, anything like that, it's kind of the icing on top. And I'm just thankful. You know, that's the best word I can come up with. Very appreciative.
Yeah. Now, you were in the arena when that was going on. Can you recall what your thoughts were exactly as you were, you know, seeing all that play out?
No, I haven't been able to make any of the playoff games. I tried to make, you know, last Sunday, but wasn't able to go. But, you know, I'm you know, definitely know, you know, the reaction and people keep me abreast of that kind of thing. So it's you know, it's a blessing, and it's what, you know, the Bay Area fans have always done for me and what they do for their athletes, you know, whether they're homegrown or whether, you know, they're transplants from other cities. I mean, they just appreciate, you know, the people that go out there and represent them well, and they always return the favor.
Yeah, and you know, you talked about those travails that you went through. I mean, how serious did the doubt become, you know, when you were at those low points along the way of reaching this pinnacle?
I mean, you know, you definitely have moments where you got to stop and assess where you are, but, you know, that's why I'm so thankful to have my faith in God. I really had to buckle down and really, you know, just tap into that and really, you know, understand that, you know, these things, they happen in life, you know, and it's not anything abnormal, you know, it's how you get through it, you know, and also having great people around me, you know, that, you know, I can call and pick up the phone and vent to or, you know, get advice from. And, you know, my team, you know, my godfather, my pastor, my wife, all the people in my life, you know, James, Josh, everybody, you know, they rallied around me and we got through it together. And, you know, getting on the other side of it, you know, I'm happy I went through it because, you know, it truly made me a stronger person, a better businessman. And now I got something to say to the younger generation when we talk, you know, beyond just, you know, what's going on inside the ring.
Great. Thank you so much, Andre. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, man.
Okay.
Our next question is going to come from Dan Raphael from ESPN. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Hey, Andre. My question for you is, after you won the fight in November, I wondered how much were you able to sit back and, at least for a little while, enjoy your victory? Because your team was pretty much right back into dealing with his decision to exercise his option for the rematch, the fact that there were some people that were vocal about the fact that they didn't think that you won the fight. So I'm wondering, how was it for you to sort of take it in and enjoy what, you know, is maybe the biggest, if not certainly one of the biggest wins of your illustrious career?
I mean, you know, I live in a different world, man. You know, I live in, you know, real life, and real life is, you know, my family, you know, and you know, boxing is a major part of my life, but it's not my whole life. So, you know, once I do my job and I'm done inside the ring, of course, I'm abreast of, you know, what's being said. I'm abreast of who's saying what, but, you know, it doesn't overtake my life. It doesn't run my life, you know. So I enjoyed my life. I enjoyed my victory. Just like I would any other victory. And I understand, you know, like people got to understand that, you know, anytime it's a close decision, you're going to have opinions either way, you know, and I've never refuted the fact that it was a close decision, but all those out there that say that, you know, it's some home cooking or anything like that, they got to remember that I'm not, you know, from Las Vegas, Nevada. And, you know, furthermore, you can't just highlight that side of it. You got to highlight the people that also felt like, you know, I deserved the victory and it was a tremendous comeback. So I've enjoyed it like I have any other, because you got to remember, Dan, you know, it doesn't take a close decision to get criticism. I've shut guys out for 12 rounds and gotten criticism. So, you know, you become immune to it after a certain period of time.
So you acknowledge that it was a close fight, certainly that some people thought it went the other way. So my question then is, how much do you have to go about to try to shake things up a little bit of what you do? And I would ask the same question that Kovalev also, if he was on the call, but that you've seen each other now 12 rounds. You know, he kind of knows what you can do, you know what he can do, and you got to win by a slim margin. So do you have to do anything dramatically different, or do you just have to fight that same kind of fight again, and it worked the first time, maybe it works the second time? How do you look at that? And I'd like Virgil to answer that also, since he's the one implementing.
I mean, of course, there's adjustments that need to be made. You know, we've been doing this a long time, so Virgil's doing his job, and my job is to listen and go out there and try to implement it, and that's what we've been doing throughout training camp. But at the end of the day, I just have to be me, and being myself is going to be enough.
Virgil, can you address that, since you're the one that's got to figure out what to tell him to do, maybe slightly different, or to switch things up ever so slightly to throw him off a little bit, since you already saw each other the first fight for 12 rounds?
Well, the opponent definitely won't see the same fighter in this fight for a number of reasons. No need to disclose. But we always go in with several plans, or any plan that needs to be implemented at any given time. So that's always been there. And, of course, I'm not going to ask him to do anything that I know he can't do or hasn't worked on or hasn't practiced. So we're fortunate enough to be able to adjust and also adapt. So taking those same ingredients into the fight, I believe that what we worked on for Plan A is going to be more than enough.
Virgil, I want to ask you one other question. You touched on a little bit when one of the other questioners asked you about the fact that you were in Montreal for Fanfare on Saturday. You were the previous day, I guess, you were in Paris for Tony Yoka's pro debut. He looked good. I watched that fight. So I know that Andre is a professional, that he's been without you, whatever. But I'm curious, just from the standpoint from your workload, your travel, the weariness of crossing all those time zones over a span of like a week, and having to be back in the gym and be there for your fighters, whether it's Andre, whether it's Yoka, whether it was Fanfare. Just how is it for you as a trainer to handle that aspect of the job?
Well, weariness doesn't come with the travel that I do. When I know I'm going to travel, I'm always prepared ahead of time, whether it be to increase my melatonin intake. But I found, since I've done it so much, I found out that when I'm sleepy, I'll sleep, and if I'm up, I'm up. It doesn't matter what time it is or what day it is. I try not to be on a schedule like I am at home, so that works for me. Okay,
and just one other question. It's going to be Andre's first rematch of his career. He's had, this will be his 32nd professional fight, and this is the first time he's having a rematch, mainly because the other fights were never close. So from your standpoint as the trainer, is there anything different going into to preparing for a rematch as opposed to an opponent you've never had your guy in the ring with before?
Well, in the amateurs, when you're at the top level and you're fighting the top level, you're going to national tournaments, you tend to see some opponents more than once and more than twice, which has occurred in the amateurs. So in a sense, he has had rematches. As far as this rematch is concerned, all I can say is, oh boy. That's all I can say.
What does that mean exactly?
You'll see. Oh, boy. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Virg. Thank you, Andre. Okay. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Our next question is going to come from Daniel Rausch from the Men's Fitness Magazine. Please go ahead.
Hey, Virgil, I have a question for you, sir. First and foremost, thanks for being a coach that works with people from the ground up. I remember you invited me to East Oakland Boxing Club back that day. Is there any danger that, in the rematch you don't have the fear and the trepidation that you had going into the first match? Is there any fear that you get too confident?
Well, there wasn't any fear or trepidation going into the first match. You can't have that. Of course, you're aware of what the opponent brings. We're aware that you have a bigger opponent, a stronger opponent, an opponent that can punch. We're aware of all of that, but we've been through that before. I mean, when he fought in the Olympics at light heavyweight, people don't know or they never acknowledge the fact that he was only 170 pounds, so he was giving up weight, height, and size there. So he's used to it. He's accustomed to it. And because of his physical strength and his stamina and his IQ, he's able to overcome all these so-called advantages that the other fighter might have. So we respect our opponents, and we respect Kovalev, on what he has done and what he's capable of doing. And it's a healthy respect, but it's not a respect that's going to stop him from getting smashed June 17th.
Not to ask the same question that the last reporter did or to give away any national secrets, but are you going to do anything in the rematch to try to take the jab away and take the right hand away more than in the first bout?
Well, we took the right hand away after the second round. I think if anybody watches that fight, they'll see that that's a fact. No, there's nothing different that we're going to do other than we're prepared, and whatever comes our way, if we need to adapt to certain things, we'll adapt. If not, we'll keep rolling. So it's right there on that line.
Okay, I had a quick question for SOG. Andre, you got to admit that this is the first time we've kind of seen Kovalev's feathers ruffled in the press and so forth. He seems to be a little bit affected by this. Do you see that?
I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if the man is putting on a game. Or, I think, he and his side, I think they outthink themselves. I think they're trying to get in our heads and trying to do so much that they're confusing themselves. A lot of what they do and say don't make a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, it's not even, it's a non-factor and it's a non-issue in our camp. It's not, it's not something that, we talk about. It's not, here and there something to get brought up. But it's not, it's like we've been doing this so long where, the threats and putting out stories that aren't true, like it just doesn't move you. You got to learn to fight to stay in the middle, man, and stay locked in and not get too caught up in the highs and lows. And like I've always said, whether he's, ruffled or not, we have a date, and that date is about 10 days away, and it'll all get settled June 17th. And that's what matters the most.
Going forward, is it just going to be round 13 and business as usual, or are you going to try to show maybe more hand speed, more feints, more tricks, and try to fluster him even more?
I mean, it's just, it's going to be the whole gamut. I mean, it's not one thing that, I can really put my finger on. I think it's simple. I don't have anything to prove in this fight. This is a statement fight, and it's that simple. We come to make a statement.
Got it. We'll have a great fight, sir.
Thank you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. And our next question is going to come from Keith Eidig from theboxingscene.com. Please go ahead.
Yes, my question is for Andre. Andre, as you get older now, and I know Kovalev's older than you, but as you get older, how much more difficult is it for you to go through training camps, and how much of a factor is that in you deciding how much longer you want to fight?
I think, anytime you get over 30, you just start to become more mindful that you're punching your clock, and I think at the end of the day, the gauge is just the desire. When I look at the desire that I had, in my early 20s, mid-20s, in terms of the way that I put out, the duration of training, my coaches having to pull me back and fight with me to take days off. When I compare the 20s to the 30s, it's still the same. It's still the same. If anything's different, I have to give more attention to my body after I, abuse it and break it down. Massage therapy, cold bath, those kind of things. That's pretty much what's changed. But the desire is still there. I'm not getting hit with punches that I normally wouldn't get hit with. I'm not, guys in sparring that I would normally, deal with and hold off. They're not, having their way. So these are the things. These are the signs you look at as you get, into your early to mid 30s. And if you're lucky enough beyond that to see if it's a situation where it's time to walk away, and those types of things aren't even happening.
And how would you assess Kovalev's power from the first fight, especially as it relates to maybe other guys that you fought, obviously at a lower weight?
I mean, honestly, I'm not really in the business of assessing guys' power. I think, like I said before, he's a good fighter. It's not what it's cracked up to be, and but I give him his respect. He's a champion, and I think, once you become a champion and defend your belt, you're a champion for life. So, he's a champion caliber fighter, and we give him that respect. But in terms of rating power and all that kind of stuff. I'm really not in the business of that.
Andre, as we go forward, and we're now almost 7 months removed from the first fight, how much has it motivated you and fueled you? Because it's almost now, like yesterday on the conference call, they said that they thought he won 8 or 9 rounds, and obviously, no matter who you had winning the fight, it was much closer than that. So, how much has that motivated you as you've moved forward here?
It's definitely something that we're gonna deal with June 17th. It's definitely something that can be a motivating factor, but it's not everything. At the end of the day, that's their narrative. That's what we understand why they're saying what they're saying. And if you look at the history of this team, the history of this fighter, anytime it doesn't go their way, they respond like this. So, we understand it, we get it. And furthermore, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get ahead of the story. They're trying to, in case it happens to be close again, give us the nod this time. If it's close, we deserve the nod because, they've talked about it. And my job is to not worry about what they're saying, but to make the fight to where there is no doubt and there's no arguments and there's no disputes. That's what I need to focus on.
Andre, have you watched the fight again since it happened or no?
Yeah, we've assessed it. My team's assessed it.
How did you think it went in terms of maybe how many rounds you won and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, just like I thought it went the first time. I thought I won the fight by at least 2 rounds. But at the end of the day, there's close rounds that you can call a swing round. I don't, know how this individual is judging the round or how they feel about it. But, when you look at the scorecards, I think the judges did a tremendous job because they were on one accord. When you have 3 different judges who aren't communicating throughout the course of a fight, who do this professionally, and you look, and yeah, they had some rounds here and there that may have been different, but they have the same conclusion. Whether it's my fight or any other fight, I think you got to tip your hat to them.
Virgil, what was your assessment of it after you got a chance to watch it again?
I had Andre winning by 2 rounds for the simple reason that if you look at the 3rd round, and I've actually challenged anyone to sit with me and watch the fight and show me where Sergey Kovalev won the fight. So far, no takers. Because I understand, when you have a personal fighter that you like, you're only going to see what they do. You're not going to look at what's going on with the other person. So I understand that. But as Andre said, if you look at not only the scorecards and the consistency, but if you look at the other people's opinion, top people, opinion, and there's a gentleman, I can't think of his name now, who actually has the list of people, you'll see that it was even in their opinions going down. But, so far the tendency is only to highlight what people felt about what Sergey Kovalev did. So I concur with Andre. How can 3 judges who don't have a phone or not texting each other, what did you have? Okay, well, I'm going to put mine that way. What did you have? Okay, I think I'll put mine that way. And these are top judges, and they called the fight the same. Sky Sports had us winning by 2. We're going to put their opinion down. Right now, the Great Britain is on top of the boxing game for the simple reason that no matter what your nationality is, what your culture, they support theirs. So they're able to look at a fight the way it's supposed to be looked at. They're not looking at it in a way that favors one guy, and you can only see one guy. So, but in this particular fight, you had people coming out of their lanes. You have announcers that all of a sudden they're better than the judges. You have writers who are judges all of a sudden, and they never signed up or sat ringside and judged a fight in their life, but all of a sudden they're experts. So we understand. And like Andre said, it's our job to force you to look at the beating that's going to come and you have to accept it. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Thanks, Virgil. Thanks, Andre.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Bernard Fernandez from the Sweet Science. Please go ahead.
Yes, Andre. One thing that hasn't been talked about, maybe that's a good thing, is back in the 1980s, there was a lot of Cold War stuff, Miracle on Ice, Rocky IV, that kind of stuff, Cold War kind of stuff. there doesn't seem to be any of that. Most of the stuff leading up to this fight just seems to be boxing stuff. Not that Kovalev is Russian or that you're the last U.S. male gold medalist in boxing. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a good thing that that it hasn't devolved into any of that? And obviously Russia's been in the news quite a bit lately.
Yeah, I try to stay out of the politics. Whether it's concerning our government or whether it's concerning boxing. It's best for me to just stay out of it completely. But that doesn't mean that I'm not, honored to represent my country, which I've done since I've been, been fortunate enough to do since I've been a little boy at the junior Olympic level all the way up to the Olympics. And, I've had a lot of international competition as a professional, and it's an honor and a privilege to live here in the United States and to represent my country. And I've always tried to do that, no matter who I'm fighting. So, that's my focus, and I know that, there are parallels, and for the players involved, the promoters, they're definitely going to talk about it, and it's definitely something that's interesting and some people can pull on, but personally, I pretty much stay out of that.
And one other thing, too, is, obviously I have covered fights involving fighters who have been undefeated and lost for the first time, and they're never quite the same, You haven't lost since you were 13 years old. I mean, the thing is, has the thought of that ever happening to you as a professional, has it ever crossed your mind? And, being undefeated for as long as you have been, going back to the amateur days, is it difficult to keep from feeling like you're invincible?
No, it's not. It's not difficult to feel like that. I think for myself and for many individuals who, have achieved any kind of, true success, if you really talk to them and listen to them, and there's obviously exceptions, but a lot of the ones that I talk to and listen to or study, it rarely seems like it's enough. They can win 100 times and they want that 101st time, or they can have a great performance, but they'll tell you all the negative things that they saw in the performance. It's that perfectionist in you, and it's that, that thing in you that just wants to be excellent. So, and even beyond that, I didn't give myself, this ability and this talent that I have, and I honestly didn't give myself, this drive that I have. It's God-given, and I'm thankful for it, and I recognize that. And when you understand, where your strength comes from and who it comes from, there's no room for boasting.
One last thing, and that is that so far we're not quite 6 months into 2017, but this has been a terrific year for boxing in general, with a lot of great fights, a lot of great matchups, more so than they probably had all of last year. In terms of both the aesthetics and the business end, how important and incumbent upon you guys, to deliver a fight that lives up, to the hype. And I'm not really sure if the first one turned out to be quite that, but how important is that?
Well, I think the first fight was a great fight. I think it was a lot of drama in the first fight, more drama than I wanted. And I think it was a tremendous fight. And, I believe, round two is going to be a tremendous fight. And, you got to realize, it's not a video game. It's real life. So you got to live it out. You got to fight it out. You got to play it out. And you got to let it be what it's going to be, As the guy that's in there, you can't come in there and dictate what type of, event it's going to be and how many people are going to love it and how many people are not going to love it. You just got to go in there and do what you have to do. And then when you step back, you hope it's something that everybody appreciated, and you hope it's something that they felt was worth paying for.
I appreciate it, Andre. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Salvador Rodriguez from ESPN. Please go ahead.
Hello, Andre. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good, Andre. Just I have a question. How difficult is the race right now for being the number one pound by pound?
How difficult is it for?
Yeah, it's to be the number one because you have the time with Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao many years ago, and right now it's different with Golovkin, Kovalev, Roman Gonzalez. So how different is this race in comparing the seasons or the times?
I'm sorry, I don't know if I understand the question.
How difficult is to be right now to be the number one in boxing?
I mean, you know, it's I don't know. It's a tough question, you know, to answer. Personally, for me, I wake up every day and I take the approach where I keep my head down. I got a blue collar mentality to the sport, and I always have. You know, I disappear, I go to work with my team, and then we show up, you know, on fight night, and we try to put on the absolute best performance we can. And, you know, we let the people who vote have a vote. We let the people who have a say. And, you know, it's a blessing to be in the conversation.
And do you feel that today the fans are looking for more aggressive style than a technician style, than a elegant style, or what is your perception about that?
I think it depends on who you talk to. And I think, you know, everybody has to be careful when they say the fans because they don't speak for all the fans. You know, it amazes me that you'll have one person speak for all fans, all boxing fans all over the world. And I don't know about them, but personally, you know, I'm in the streets meeting these people, talking to these people from state to state, and even going to, you know, the UK. It's like I don't always get the same response that I might read or hear about. So I think everybody has to be careful when they speak for the fans. I think that's been a narrative over the last I don't know how many years where that's like the thing where if it's not blood and guts toe to toe, then we don't want to see it. That's kind of the narrative and the story that's being pushed out there. But I also see when those kind of blood and guts fighters finally hit a wall and they can no longer compete and fight at that same level, I also see them get forgotten about just as quickly as they were talked about. And I also know that when I look at my history and I look at the sport of boxing, the greats that I saw, the ones that helped mold my style and the ones that helped me get to the place where I am today, the guys that were on top for 10 years, 8 years, 7 years, they could do it all. They can bang with you when it was to their advantage. They can outbox you when it was to their advantage. They can do it all. So I think it's a matter of who's saying what, and I think it's a matter of educating the boxing fans because the true education is very simple. If you love boxing, yes, you may have a certain style that you favor, but you respect all fighters because they get in there and they risk their life. And furthermore, if you love boxing, you love it all. I appreciate the boxer. I appreciate the boxer puncher. I appreciate the brawler who maybe doesn't have the skill to box. I appreciate it all. So I think it's pigeonholing the sport, and I think it's really selfish to just act as if one style is the only style that all fans across the world want to see and that everybody else is not worth watching. I think that's inaccurate, and I don't think that's the way the sport should be represented. I hope that wasn't too long.
Our next question comes from Karen Tate from Boxing.com. Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I have two questions for Andre and then one question for Mr. Hunter. Andre, thank you for taking time away from training to do this call. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So you showed tremendous character and strength of will, obviously, in the first fight to rise from the canvas against Kovalev and go on to earn the victory. But what I want to hear more about is how you not only fought on but thrived as the fight progressed. How it felt to sap the energy from the guy they call the Crusher with your body work and bloody his nose in the 10th round. Would you tell me about that?
Yeah, I think that you know, it was it's just something that's in me. You know, I've faced a lot of adversity inside the ring. You know, some of it the public has seen, a lot of it, you know, maybe the public hasn't seen in the mini gyms and the mini sparring sessions and just everything that you got to do to get to a certain level in the sport. And you know, I knew what I had in me, and I've been on the canvas before. I've been hurt in fights. You know, things have happened in the sport. I've been cut. Things have happened, and you know, my response has always been the same. You know, where, you know, if I'm physically able, I want to come get that back. And, I also have, a tremendous coach who's my godfather. And, you saw him shift and go into a different gear and tell me what I needed to hear. He didn't panic, but he had a sense of urgency, and he told me what I needed to hear. And he just reminded me of all the greats that we just talked about that had their moments. And he just reminded me that, this is your moment. And sometimes in fights, sometimes in training, and especially in moments like that, it's not so much technical, it's a feeling. I felt what he was saying, and he knew that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of building off of that, not just in this fight, but throughout your career, you've always had a knack for bullying fighters in the ring who were perceived as being bigger or stronger and forcing them to back off or initiate clinches in an attempt to stay in the fight against you. What kinds of physical, mental, and spiritual preparation do you do to help you impose your will on these fighters?
I think on the physical side, again, it was Burge having the foresight early on when I was a young boy, and he saw that, I had a lot of ability and skill. And, he always told me, I don't look at the things you do well. I look at where you can be beat. And, he said and this was probably when I was 11, 12, 13 years old, he said, the only style that can give you trouble right now is a buzzsaw. So at that point, he started to physically get me strong, plyometrics, when that just started getting introduced and all those different things. And I just slowly over the years started to build my body up. And the same thing with the inside game. When I first started boxing, I was just a fighter. I didn't box at all. Then I evolved to the Olympic style into being more of a boxer. And then as I turned professional, Verge realized that I needed to evolve and be able to do both. So he put that body vest on, that shield. He'd get the big mitts and say, okay, we got to work on your inside game. And I honestly hated it. I used to hate doing those drills because they were uncomfortable. I wasn't used to them. And then all of a sudden, in the Alan Green fight, it just showed up. And I've been trying to perfect it and, be a master at it ever since. And on the spiritual side, I understand that, I don't get caught up in, or I try not to get caught up in a person's, reputation or how big they are, because throughout my career, I feel like God has put me in those positions my whole life since I've been a kid. And if you look at the Olympics, I was never the biggest guy. I was never, I've always kind of been understated. That's just my lane and my story, and I've learned to be comfortable there. And it's just a tremendous source of motivation knowing that, I can overcome in those situations, regardless of what it looks like.
That's great. And just another quick follow-up to that. I loved what you said about doing the inside fighting and learning to be great on the inside. I actually recently read a boxing instruction book by Floyd Patterson from, decades ago, and he actually made the statement in there about that inside fighting, even at that time, I think it was in the 70s, was sort of a lost art, and that it's really, really hard to learn and it's uncomfortable. And it sounds like you agree with that.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable to learn how to be there, but then it's you're putting yourself in harm's way.
Right.
You're right there in the mouth of the lion, but you got to be willing to be there in order to get your work off. And you'll notice and realize that just like the jab is a lost art today, inside fighting, skilled inside fighting is really a lost art. And a lot of guys don't want to be there. They want you at range. They want you in a certain place. And if they can't have you there, then you see a totally different fighter.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andre. Mr. Hunter, I wanted to ask you a quick question as well. I have never heard such inspirational corner talk as the motivation you gave to Andre in the first Kovalev fight. Do you prepare certain phrases in advance for a particular situation, or is it all off the cuff?
No, I don't have any preparation in advance for what I might say in the corner, for the simple reason that I would be just sort of grandstanding and creating some sort of script for myself, So that's not the situation at all. It's for the moment. It's for the moment. People tell me what you're just saying. I don't remember what I said, and I would have to go back and be reminded. I actually don't remember what I said, but my job is to be in that realistic moment and if that's the way it was taken, then that's what it was intended to be, to tell him something that I know he would embrace and understand what I was saying, because it's been between he and I, things we've talked about over the years many, many times. Sometimes you just have to put the strategy out the window and appeal to who you know that fighter is, and I know who he is. So,
right.
And I appeal to that side of him.
That's really great. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, great question. Thank you.
This is Michael Yormark. Just want to see if there's maybe one more question, and then Andre's going to move on, and then Andre will, if you have any more additional comments, Andre, after this last question, please make them, and we're going to wrap up this call after one more question.
And our last question comes from Gail Falkenthal from the Community's Digital News. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Very glad to slide this one in. Andre, I'd like to follow up to something you alluded to when you answered Lance Pugmire's question about speaking to younger fighters, because you are now in the position of your career, like it or not, to be a role model and to have that opportunity. What do you tell young fighters, a Shakur Stevenson or even a Claressa Shields, about looking toward their future and what they should know? Perhaps something you weren't told as a younger man.
Well, I think that, with someone like Shakur, someone like Claressa, they're already, and many, many others, they're already extremely smart, and I was, pretty smart. It's amazing how you can have, intelligence, but yet sometimes you're missing key things. And you only know things unless you go through it, So outside of, obviously, my family and stuff like that, I didn't really have a lot of, ex-fighters that I could pick up the phone and call. So that being said, I just try to be available. I just try to have my phone available. I try to just make the time where I need to make the time. And they'll let you know what they need to talk about and what they want to talk about. And, if I have the answer, I'm going to definitely give them everything I can give them. And if I don't, I'll try to help them find it, because at the end of the day, whether it's Claressa or Shakur, I'm for the fighter. I'm pro-fighter. And sometimes when you talk like that, people get a funny look on their face. And I think everybody has to remember that, we're not just commodities. Like, we're humans. We got families. And I think humanizing us, will go a long way, because at the end of the day, these careers are going to stop. The cheers are going to stop at some point. And what are you left with? What is your family left with? And those are the things that I try to focus on. So the training piece, and, we talk about that kind of stuff, but it's also more life, and it's about, being stable and making the right decisions now, so down the road you're happy that you did what you had to do. And it's an honor and a privilege to be someone that, that any of those fighters would want to pick up the phone and call. I don't look at it like a burden. It's an honor and a privilege.
You enjoy it?
Still there?
Yes. Do you enjoy it?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Like, I love it. I love it because, like I said, I didn't, I can remember I was a student of the game, so with certain guys that, I just kind of lock eyes on and say, man, like, I like this guy for this reason, or, man, I want to, man, I like how he did this, but I didn't have the access to pick up the phone. So I enjoy it because, I'm giving them maybe a little bit more than what I had, but I also know that knowledge and that information is valuable. If I can help you avoid a pitfall and a pothole along the way, that's what it's about, because I've seen the end. I've been to the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and it's a tremendous place, and I've had a tremendous time there, and I want to go back. But you also see the realities of our sport, and it can scare you straight. And one thing that was told to me that I try to pass on to them is that no matter how much your name is in the lights, no matter how hot you are right now, no matter how much people are talking about you, line your ducks up and put them in a row, because at the end of the day, one day it's going to stop, and who knows when that time is. But you want to be able to walk away from this sport with your brains intact, whatever you were able to make, have that intact, and be able to walk away with your legacy and your dignity. And if you can do that, I think that's a victory and that's a career well spent.
I can't think of a more important message. Bless you, and thank you very much, Andre. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate the question.
Okay, on behalf of Andre and Virgil, Josh Dubin, once again, I want to thank all the media for participating today. We are 10 days away from the big moment. We're excited to see everybody in Las Vegas next week. And again, we appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. You may all disconnect, and I hope you have a wonderful day.